Okay, so, October 21st, 6:14 PM, calling to order, Ag Advisory Meeting. Member roll call, James Oku, Natalie Sayre, present, John Bars,
Present.
Peter Markey,
Here.
Ryan Casey,
Here.
Paul Mazarigos Anastasio,
Here.
Crystal Shea, Daniel Theobald, vacant farmer, vacant public member, vacant conservationist, natural resource conservation staff, Jim Howard, San Mateo County Agriculture Commissioner, Torrin Woodell, here. Farm Bureau Executive Director, Jess Brown, UC Co-op Extension Representative, Dr. Igor Lacon, San Mateo County Planning Liaison, Olivia Boo.
Here.
Oral communications to allow the public to address the committee on any matter not on the agenda. If your subject is not on the agenda, the chair will recognize you at this time. This is to, for public members. Is there any hands raised, through Zoom?
There's no hands right now.
Okay. Moving to the next, consideration of the meeting minutes for the July 8th, 2024 AAC meeting. The minutes were in your packet.
They're also a hard copy available.
And there is a hard copy available. Is anybody, who wants to get a copy? Does everyone have a copy who wants to have a copy?
There's
So,
that one on the right.
so can we do ayes and nays for that, or does it have to be respective of each person for voting?
Hey, just the eyes.
Okay, so, those in favor of approving the minutes for the Monday, July 8th, 2024 AAC meeting, please say aye.
Aye. Aye. Abstain.
Those, aye. Those not in favor? Okay, so we have 4 ayes and 1 abstain,
0 no.
and 0 no's. Thank you. Officer elections for chair and vice chair, these positions are required to be filled by farmers, it says. So, Peter,
Seeing that we don't have everybody here, can we put it off the next month?
I think that's a good idea. So since everyone is not here, is everyone in agreement to put it off to the next meeting, number 1, and number 2, is that okay as far as the protocol for the? Okay, so everyone's in favor of that? Okay, so everybody nodded their head yes in favor to put it off until next month. Number 6, committee member updates and or questions to allow committee members to share news and or concerns for items not on the agenda. Does anybody have anything on the committee? Corin?
Always have a little something.
Okay, the chair recognizes Ag Commissioner Corin
Great, thank you.
Whittle.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry, I got it wrong before that.
It's
Thank
okay.
you.
I know, that's my bad.
I keep going back and forth. That's right, it's my fault. Go ahead, thank you.
So I talked a lot about fruit flies last year, and there's another quarantine in Alameda County in Fremont of the Mediterranean fruit fly. These are instantaneous, usually quarantine areas. This one especially was because they caught a mated female in the trap, which isn't a good thing. So they've since found, I don't know how many wildflies they've found, but they have extended the quarantine. And so they've been doing treatments within the quarantine area and also doing fruit removal within 100 meters of the find. And so And this is typically backyard fruit, right? Because we're putting traps out in residential areas. So just be aware about that, and if there's any farmers markets in that area, which I'm not sure whether or not there are any, but if there are, they'll have compliance mitigation requirements at that market. And anybody, I looked up their compliance agreements, but I couldn't tell whether or not they were from within Alameda County. I think they're outside vendors, so I don't know if anyone has any experience there, but so just be aware of that. High path avian influenza, I've been keeping you guys posted on it. My department doesn't have a lot to do with it, but it has been found in 131 dairies, herds in the state. And so they're continuing to try to work through the quarantine mechanism there. And I do know that one particular herd has come out of quarantine, so that's good to know, because the first find was in August. So, and here we have a herd coming out of quarantine, so there is hope there. But if there is anybody that's concerned about, you know, unusually sick livestock in their, you know, herd, that there is a phone number to call, and it's 866-922-2473. So ideally, early detection will provide the opportunity to work with the farms and implement biosecurity, cow care, and employee protection. Risk to human population remains low. People with close contact to infected birds and dairy cows are at the greatest risk for contracting it. And so, but milk, pasteurized milk and dairy products are safe to consume because it inactivates the flu virus. Okay, and then the California Department of Food and Ag Produce Safety Program is debuting its new farm data website. And this is to support compliance with Food Safety Modernization Act, and probably some people in this room are hopefully familiar with it.
We do, there's a question, I know both our farms have recently been contacted. for
By
an
them.
Inspection by
Mhm,
them.
yeah,
Is this,
it's separate from my department, so they have been. It's California Department of Food and Agriculture, and it's their produce safety program. So they're the ones doing the inspections.
It's not food safety, it's something different.
It's
It is
food
food
safety,
safety.
yeah. FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act. So there is information and there is a database, and the database you only have access to your own inspections. You won't be able to see other people's, so. But we were gonna have them come to our growers workshop and talk about it a little bit, because I think it could be helpful, just so you guys have a better understanding of what the requirements are
We're
around.
gonna do it soon, because they're all right, like.
Yeah,
they're
our
already on our
inspection's
calendar.
November.
Oh, you
Yeah.
do, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But I
Yeah,
mean,
I know they're
we will
trying to-
benefit from learning more after the inspection, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for
yeah.
them to go first. you know. See what I have to do.
If you don't mind me asking too, we have dextrification, but I know we've been hearing just over the years that FSMA is coming for all farms, everybody's gonna be certified.
Mhm.
Do you know what the latest is? Cause it sounds like that's entering more that direction now, but
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like it's universal now. And I know I've heard rumors that it's gonna be just like.
So really, they're in a compliance phase, so they're trying to get everybody on board.
Mhm.
And then I think it'll be more kind of regimented, but at this point, they're trying to do compliance
Okay.
inspections, so that's kind of, you know, just to get everyone familiar with the requirements
And just to clarify, my understanding of the regulations from past years was, I think, there were operations that were exempt.
There
And are those still gonna be applicable in the future?
I
That-
can't speak to that.
Supposed to be only if you produce under $5,000 a year.
Oh, I thought it was $500,000 a year.
$5,000?
I thought it was 25,000, or maybe it's 5,000.
It's actually.
Yeah, the federal law, the
It's
federal,
been
yeah.
around a while.
Yeah, the federal law, my understanding was, I mean, we have the certification, so, but I've heard from other farmers that would, that's what I'm getting at, that it was like under $500,000 a year, you're exempt. If you sell yourself within a certain radius, I don't know if that's like,
Yeah.
it's just, okay.
Yeah,
But
I
you
just,
may
I
not be
don't wanna.
prioritized for inspection.
Exactly, I think, cause I do think they have been inspecting
Yeah.
some people more often, but again, I think it's been under compliance, so I think now they're ready to kind of gear up
Go
and,
for it, okay.
yeah. But they seem, yeah, they've been coming and talking to the commissioners, and I thought it would probably be helpful if it just so that we
They're pretty
get the
laid back.
information, I hope so.
And actually, one of the questions regarding that as well is that, I understand that there's a few counties, like Monterey County, as this is, if I'm not mistaken, that has, like a group gap, from the county.
So when you say gap,
Like, it's like
Agreement.
a group food safety, a gap is like the compliance.
Yeah.
thing From the USDA.
Where does that gap come from? Good agriculture.
yeah, I think,
license, yeah.
so I think that came out of the leafy green
Uh-huh.
gap, is that what you're talking?
No, well, I mean, from us, gap certification is just the USDA, like,
Yeah.
the name for just the USDA certification that you have to get in order to be approved for FISMA.
Okay,
And my understanding is that there's a few counties, Monterey being one of them, that has group gap, because the problem is like for each farm, it's really expensive individually. So group gap plan is supposed to be, it can be from a county or it can be from just a group of people who just kind of come together, but they can do a group plan, which the certification process is, it is uniform for one kind of joint food safety plan for everybody involved. Like Alba program down in Salinas also has this program as well for their growers.
mhm,
That's like a specific program for it, and I think in Monterey County you can opt into it as well.
okay.
And I'm wondering if there's ever been an interest in
Oh,
doing it
here.
in Cemetery County.
I have not heard of it.
Mhm.
I would have to look into it more. Yeah, and that hasn't, I think this is. I don't know how this relates to the FISMA and the CDFA's produce safety
It's the
branch
same
at
thing.
this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for GAP is the same, I mean.
There might have been
Yeah.
like third-party certifiers.
Yeah, because I think GAP is the same. Yeah.
Third party, but.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for a long time,
Mhm.
and like I say, and we also have, like for our leagues, we have a night dip, club dip. And we have, strips that you test for the chlorine level and versus drops. We have, a spray for chlorine that you, certain, strength that you need for the spray. That you put, strip to test it, and then, it's all gone. We have so many files here. That comes and, checks all this. And it's, that, it's, check daily. It's, forms, paper, satire, and that's all. And so, it's, quite involved.
Mhm.
And, so, and,
Peter, who's your certifier?
we used to use Primes, but we used somebody else.
Okay.
Without third party.
Okay, we did it through the USDA, and that's like a GAP program, it's through them, but it's
It's through
pricey,
USDA.
yeah. Mhm.
And business sounds familiar. So, but anyways.
Yeah, FISMA is that.
Is the food safety.
Yeah.
modernization.
Yeah.
It's the rule,
And,
federal
and
rule
we
behind it.
Checked our irrigation water,
Mhm.
like we have to all the time, and samples here, and, so.
Well, more to come on it, I
Yeah.
think, is the, so we'll see. Again, like I said, I was thinking of having them just talk to everybody about it, because it's good, at least if my staff has a better understanding of it, including myself. Just because I know there's a lot of questions that come.
Yeah, or if you have any information from other counties, then maybe have them going through it
Okay,
prior to us.
interesting, yeah,
To share and help us.
okay, prepare for it, yeah.
We've been doing a meeting thing during like and Tuesday.
Yeah, I think what I'm looking for specifically is, are these inspections,
These particular,
these
because
particular.
you were inspected
inspections.
by Primus, right?
Yeah, you had a third party that
Yeah,
allowed
but
you
we
to
switched
sell
to-
to certain
we
folks.
switched to a different person, but it was from.
Okay, yeah, because these will be the State Department of Food and Agriculture staff
I-
at this point.
Yeah, I think just from personal experience, one of the things that's complicated about this rule is I feel like it's been very, how do I put this, it's a very like just bureaucratically complex rule where it's hard to know really like who's supposed to do what, what
Yeah.
third parties are supposed to do. I know it's been, when we first got it in 2020, we tried looking at doing a group gap with a couple of other farms. And I think my experience was just a lot of, it's more Veronica on our team who handles all our food safety stuff, but our experience was just like a lot of people were, like, this is a lot of bureaucratic complexity to make this work.
Yeah,
And because I think it's that clear.
you
like,
guys
what's
are
actually
all
required.
dealing with a lot of agencies, so
Yeah.
that's what's.
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
more-
Agencies
More and
and
more,
third
that's why
parties,
I'm sort of hesitant to say anything, because I don't wanna, because I don't have the jurisdiction over this, my department doesn't, but I wanna help you guys get
yeah.
the
We appreciate it.
information.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, there were a couple bills that passed, that were signed by the governor, AB 1864. This is, pesticides around ag use around school sites. So what this is gonna require is that any, agricultural field within a quarter mile of a school is gonna have to have a separate site ID number. So that's even for operator IDs and restricted materials permits. So they'll have to have a separate area. So so what was once maybe one field will now be technically two fields in our system. And then there's extra requirements for restricted materials on reporting, giving notices of intent for those particular fields. And so, that goes into effect for the first of the year. However, they did include a definition of private schools. And so that part won't go into effect until 2026. And that's really because it's gonna take a bit of effort to get the information for the private schools as well.
What was the date you said? I'm sorry.
So this
For the
goes
private
in, for private schools is 2026,
Okay,
January 1.
but for public schools is
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, because we already have that information in our database where public schools are.
Is that K through 12 or K through 8?
Yeah, K through 12, yep. Or even probably younger too, I bet.
TK?
Yeah, probably TK as well.
But once you get into college, it's okay to be expensive. That's.
Well, no, but there's just not all these requirements. There's not less requirements, I guess, for colleges. Well, now you're making me question. It could be
Yeah,
colleges as well.
we have one field that's close enough to the high school.
Okay, yeah, there might need to be a separate, and it could end up being like a strip of land. It's gonna, the part about reporting is gonna get it'll get. Bill that was signed, is, AB 2552, it's rodenticides. And this prohibits the use of first generation anticoagulants. Fluorofacinone and warfarin are the two that, are gonna be, that can't be used after, January 1st of 2025. And so there are exemptions for some agricultural activities, so we're just gonna have to look at that specifically. This really impacts structural use. And the bait boxes that are typically around structures, so,
Roads, you mean?
yeah, but this has been happening every few years, it seems like it's another active ingredient that's being canceled. That's all I have. Oh, minimum wage in unincorporated San Mateo County will be going up to $17.46. January 1.
So if we do use bait stations, for rodents, we need to double check what the active ingredients.
Yeah, you should, definitely double check them.
What's the minimum wage right now?
1706. So
Yes,
it's up 40 cents.
And I think it'll continue like every year.
Price of kale keeps going up too, right, guys?
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, anybody else, under committee member updates and our questions, allowing committee members to share news and or concerns for items not on the agenda? Okay, and, I have something. So it's regarding the agritourism, that we do in agritourism guidelines. So it was brought to my attention. I have 6 different items, but I'll try to be very concise. Is first of all, can you take one of these and then pass it around so everybody gets a copy? And basically what I'm handing out is, it's a copy of an agritourism, application for agritourism that was filled out about over 6 years ago. And you're gonna notice on the top left side, it says certificate of exemption. And then here, if you take a look at the packet, and I'm using mine as an example, just because I think I'm the only one in there this month, is the application for agritourism currently, and it's been like this for our previous applicants as well this year, it does not say certificate of exemption on the top left. And so that was a point of contention because when the agritourism guidelines were made by this committee, along with San Mateo County over a decade ago, one of the things that was important, and the county and the people that made the guidelines felt strongly, is to be very careful to have it in there that it is exempt, because you're not putting a permit in there. And so it makes it very clear and definitive, because basically you're being exempt from getting the kind of costly permit that you would have to get if in fact this wasn't created. So here we're talking $118. The county has worked really well with AAC to make this happen. And it's really helped farmers to be able to have secondary things that are fun in addition to their crop without having to spend a ton of money that makes it impossible to do. Yeah, so, but that just really fast. So I bring this to your attention because my concern is that now that that's not in there, it implies, it doesn't say certificate of exemption, which is important. And we know why it's important from what I just said. And then secondly, because, so I talked to Summer Burleson about it. She doesn't want to have the certificate of exemption in there. However, Summer Burleson with the county, she did give me some words in an email that she said we could do instead. And I wanted to talk about that, but Peter, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I said that point before I finished my sentence. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things why they had this exemption, worded exemption before, because basically it was a permit exemption, is because back in the day, like Tiara said, Tiara opinion, is that if it is classified as a permit, and then it's subjectable to the coastal commission, the whole category different, where this was what we did, that was ag tourism guidelines, that was exemption from permit and, basically streamline from all the red tape that you'd have to do like you would do in a permit.
Exactly, and the cost, it's much more cost efficient, and it's allowed farmers to be able to actually do it. Hence, that you're exempt from having to get a permit, and when you look at the guidelines themselves, they reference that wording, but go ahead.
And if you take that word out, it says it could be misunderstood in the future as it being meaning that permit. And then it creates another problem. And when they change the wording, when it said, oh, we're still it came to us to discuss it first. And so we could have reminded them why it was structured that way in the beginning. And so we just don't want to have the wording change that creates red tape that was supposed to prevent us to having all this red tape.
Exactly, and the point of contention is twofold. Number one, that it occurred because it absolutely dissolved years and years of work that this committee put into play to make this happen. And that's concerning. And then secondly, the fact that this was done unilaterally without coming to our committee to discuss it with us, when we're the ones that created it with them. Summer Burleson did come back to me on a email, and she said she's concerned about it being saying any certificate of an exemption, because she says that it could imply that it's like a CDX exemption, you know, like on a PAD parcel. So I assume that's what she meant, like on a PAD parcel. So, anyway, she said maybe we could do something like seasonal non-permit agriculture event application. And so I wrote it down exactly as she said it. So I would like to, and I want to put the other points into play, my concerning about the agritourism application and the agritourism process all together. I want to talk about all of it, but that's one point. The first point I wanted to make, because I'm hoping that we can agendize this for the next meeting, because I feel like our committee and the committee that before I even came on board, like when my brother was on board, and maybe some of you were on this committee that created this. And then when I was on board with the last few years, you know, with a gal that was a secretary and spent just tons of time, you know, writing up all these guidelines. I feel like they've just unraveled and they've never even discussed it with us. And so,
For clarification, Natalie, they're not attempting to charge you some fee that they used to
oh,
not
no,
charge
no,
you.
the fee's not changing.
So
And that's why I
the
want to be
concern
clear.
is just that the lack
Yes.
of the
What
language
if it
in
said,
the
like,
application.
exempt?
Yeah, well, I think that what we'd have to do, well, first of all, to answer your question, no, they're not charging any fee, any additional fee. They've actually been very wonderful in working with the farmers and creating this with us to keep the fees low. But I'm concerned when we get into new people that want to do this, because it's going to be a problem, because in addition to this, they also did a few other things. And the second one was they asked for a developmental review, and they sent the application to developmental review. They've asked for things that, the third thing they asked for was, and they did this to the two previous applicants that we saw in September's meeting. They asked, which I confirmed with them, is they asked for a deed, proving that they own the property, all kinds of things that they hadn't asked for in the past. Now, Summer did point out to me that in the application itself, in the current one, and I noticed in the previous one too, it does say, please fill out under instructions, please fill out the general planning permit application form. So, but the general planning permit application form is for things like septic, topography of the land. Things are absolutely, you know, just things that you would have done once for your crop, and that's it. So that's something that we might want to discuss. So, but it is in effect there, but for the last 10 years, they've never asked for it. So that's kind of where that is. And then the other thing, which is the, and I'll absolutely address your point, but the other thing that's also concerning is that, that we came across the same issue that we came across in past applicants. And it's something that we really want to be done with.
And basically for my application, I was asked, it was put on the application that part of my ag tourism was selling Christmas trees, which we all know selling our crop is our crop. That's our year, like, the artichoke grower that grows year round.
It's not part of agriculture.
It's not right. It's agriculture, your crop is
Agritourism.
separate. And when you look at the agriculture guidelines, it says verbatim that this is for agritourism, which is secondary to the crop. It's ancillary to the crop. I mean, so basically, and that's something we've had to explain for years and years and years. And the concern is I think as a committee, is that we,
You could say Christmas trees year round if you choose to. Agriculture, it's true. Some people come in January, come in
Right.
February, hey, can I buy a tree?
Right.
And then you don't want to get that is your crop. You don't want to get that confused with agritourism.
right, it's separate because there's a lot of farmers that don't do
Yeah,
agritourism.
You pick
They just have a
strawberries, you
crop.
don't Get that confused with agriculture.
Right, and it's
You
like-
have- you pick
exactly.
months out of the year.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so what's gonna happen over time, if there's always this issue, oh, it's your crop, and they keep adding the crop,
That's
We're
not
gonna
part
be-
of agritourism.
it's not part of agritourism, and that seems like a basic, do you know what I
I do
mean?
think you need to be growing a crop though.
Well, yeah,
No,
and
that's
it
not the
says
issue.
that, but it
Yeah.
says that in the
And
guidelines.
then the guidelines says it's
It
complementary
says-
to your crop, yes.
It says it must be ancillary to your crop. And then it says that you have to in fact have, a crop and you're ancillary to it, absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
there were-
not the issue. The
Yeah.
issue is when they try to clump in Christmas tree picking part of agritourism,
Yeah,
that means, you can only pick the trees during those.
Well,
45
put it this way,
No,
if
no, if
we,
you want to harvest some of your trees early or
Right.
late, it is a ag crop, just like, harvesting, you pick strawberries.
well,
Or do you pick artichokes?
I think that's something to be said too, it's 90% of the growers in this county, okay, don't do agritourism, okay? So here's the crop. It's like a plate that we put on the table, okay, for Thanksgiving dinner. Here's my analogies, okay? And if we choose to put agritourism, here's a big heaping spoonful of mashed potatoes, okay? But if we don't, we still have that plate. And it's gonna affect the 90% that don't. do agritourism.
Put on the agenda for next week.
I think we-
Discuss it.
yeah.
I think we should.
Yeah.
I want to agendize it.
Can I just give a little reference point though?
Yes.
Because my notes aren't very thorough in this category, but I do have the board meeting or the committee meeting saved to where this application was approved.
My
The
application?
new application, I mean, the new, the application for agritourism event. It was, June 8th, 2020.
And that was at the AAC meeting?
Yeah. Like I randomly saved that agenda packet.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
Let's revisit it because
Yes.
we don't want
there's a
to take
memo
out,
too that.
we really don't want to take out exemption because we don't want to be clumped into a process for.
Also, I want to be clear, it's not just the wording, because if it was just the wording, that wouldn't be an issue. It's the very fact that along with the wording, was things like, okay, well, now you have to provide a deed. Now it's gonna go to planning department, developmental review committee, things like that. Then Summer explained to me after that they have, and this did not just happen to me, but it happened to the two prior applicants in September. And the problem, and she said that they're having problems with their system, so the developmental review thing shouldn't have occurred and what have you. But it's just, but this part about the permit application form and all this stuff, whereas the very fact that it's exempt meant that we're not supposed to get a permit. And I think we're gonna scare away a lot of people. And the reason it matters is because we all know that agritourism was created because people were having difficulty making ends meet in farming and they couldn't make it. So it was to help them financially to be able to continue to farm. Exactly. So if they give up, because they see all this, which wasn't supposed to occur, then we've then we failed another group of potential farmers, and I don't wanna do that. Yeah, cool.
I'd move to agendize this the next meeting. The
Yes.
one question or one, I guess maybe recommendation, it would be, just based on your experience and based on from when, AEC did draft the initial version some time ago, would it be possible just to create like a draft of what a new version should look like? Because if it's simple, I mean, I guess maybe all it needs to say is just adding the previous checkbox that was here, or if there's anything else specifically. to it.
Summer said, she
Okay.
gave me some wordage that I think sounds good. I'd wanna bring that and
Mhm.
agendize it at the next meeting to
Okay.
discuss it. But
Yeah.
it says seasonal non-permanent agriculture event application,
Mhm.
because I think she felt more comfortable with that.
Okay,
And I, you know, and she's pretty good about,
yeah.
that, so I was thinking that, I can revisit it with her in the interim
Mhm.
and see if she would, but I don't wanna create anything until we've all talked about it
Yeah,
together.
no, I would to agenda it then for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Are we aware of any other changes that have happened since we submitted that document
Well, that,
related to agritourism?
sure, well, one of
There
the
were a
things,
bunch of suggestions.
There's-
and-
Yeah, that
Yeah.
just got
Well-
put on the shelf.
the under the agriculture guidelines. Okay, so, applicants are being asked for the route of their, their hayride. And in the agriculture guidelines, what we decided, as a committee with the county was was that the acreage, agritourism, you have to be under 1 acre. If it's a 40-acre parcel or less, you can have 2 acres if it's more than 40-acre parcel. So, but those 1 or 2 acres do not include the route for the train or the hayride. So that shouldn't be, we believe then that route shouldn't have been as a part of it. So that's one of the things that I think they're asking applicants for the route. Yes, Peter.
When that was first formed, we said that the hayride or the train ride, and actually when you load up and unload, be in the 1 acre, but not be limited within the 1 acre or 2 acres, because it would be too congested and basically, because how much people were. So, but the route of travel was never discussed.
But see, and the thing is that this is absolutely written, even secondary, they even put it in bold letters, because they want it to be clear, they meeting the Ag Advisory Committee when this was created, in which the county adopted it, these guidelines, that it's secondary to the crop. Okay, and the part about the train is in here as well. It says has to be within a 1 acre or 2 acre parcel, depending how large the parcel is. And it says except for the train route or except for the hayride route. So they were really clear. So I think a problem is that maybe it's not being read when new people are coming on board. Maybe there needs to be some sort of training put into place. I don't know, but my concern is that for me, because I've been doing this for a while, I saw it and I was able to go, oh no, not again, kind of thing, but I knew it was easy to explain how it works. But I'm concerned for people who are new, because our job is not just to preserve agriculture, but like I was telling him, it's also to embrace others that want to, have farm for themselves, right? And I think other people would give up. So that's my concern, but yes, I think we should, but I want to go back to you, Corin, and I'm so sorry, you made a point. You were asking about what if these,
Oh, I was saying, what if, because maybe there's just the language isn't,
We could just pursue it.
you know what I mean? Like, find some middle ground there that
Yes,
works for
yes.
everybody.
well, I
But
like
maybe
Summer's
certificate
idea,
of exemption,
Right.
just doesn't quite
of course,
work any longer, and so
We'll.
be
exactly,
exempt or
exactly.
something.
So
And I like her idea of that, the way she had said it. Yeah, go ahead, dear.
Cole made a motion to agendize it for next week. Do we need to vote on that?
Yes, I think so. So, do we have a second?
I'll come in a second.
Okay, so we're gonna agendize, revisiting the farm labor house,
or agritourism
sorry, the agritourism, oh my God.
wording.
For the next meeting, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, nay? Did you get that, Olivia?
Yeah, can you repeat who seconded?
Peter Markey.
Thank you.
Okay, next, thank you very much, everybody. And if you are able, or I can print some out before the next meeting, the ag tourism guidelines, and bring them to the next meeting. Next is. I'm sorry, here we go. The committee nomination for AAC secretary.
Lauren Silverman.
I know, right? And she's the one who worked so hard on those ag tourism guidelines. Can we have an exemption to bring back someone from another county and they can just be like, some special
Secretary.
person, right? So, we don't have not everybody is here. Do you guys want to do what we did for the other positions?
Yeah, I make a motion to put it off to next week by more committee members.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so Cole seconded, Cole or Ryan?
Ryan and Cole.
Ryan and Cole. Okay, number 8, planning and building department directors report, planning liaison, Olivia.
Let me get to that just a moment. So for the time from to September, there was no planned agricultural permits that were considered by the Board of Supervisors or the Planning Commission. There were no planning agricultural permits that were received by the Planning Department, nor coastal development exemptions for ag projects. And other projects that came in is Kim Can Trust, applicant is Chuck Reichel at the address 22495 Cabrillo Highway for a coastal development permit and architectural review permit exemption for the drilling of one agricultural replacement well. That was it was processed by Angela Chavez, and then that one was approved by the Planning Commission at their September 11th hearing. The appeal period ended on October 17th. The next meeting AAC, November 18th. That's the end of that report.
Thank you. Is there anything else? No? Okay, so the regular agenda item on number 9 is the applicant for the agritourism, Daniel Sayre and Natalie Sayre. Consideration of an agritourism event for the temporary seasonal Santa's Tree Farm operation starting on November 22nd, 2024 and ending on January 5th, 2025. This year's activities will include the addition of agriculture, education, farm tours, and stories. Please direct any questions to project planner Tiffany G at tgsmgov.org. If you, the chair recognizes Peter Markey.
Many changes since last year's.
The only change is that, the farm tours and, but I believe that farm tours, that could be on the ag tourism or not on the ag tourism, but I put it down just in case. Just to be as transparent as possible. And then also some changes in this, if you go to the report by Tiffany G, planning staff, for this, file.
file number, which is PLN 2024-00263 there. Under the proposal on the 5th sentence, it says the proposed event elements are, and then it says Christmas tree sales. My husband's been doing Christmas tree sales since 1972.
They put that part of agritourism,
So yes,
that's not part of agritourism.
I know. So please cross that out for the record. That has been occurring as a crop and selling the crop long before agritourism ever existed around here, or at least before it became an event. So that's incorrect. And then, on page 4, it's not that big of a deal, but it is parcel, not parcels. So it's not plural, it's on one parcel. And of course, that could be a big deal because there has been concern of people doing agritourism on more than one parcel.
And why can't they?
I don't know, but this just happens to be one, so just letting you know. So, yeah, and then under B, it says, which is something we can discuss on the agritourism, next meeting, I think, is, the proposed agritourism event is for the November 22nd, 2024, January 5th, 2025, winter holiday tree season. Okay, so I want to be clear that we don't have, and there's another point here that says holiday Christmas trees, or I'm sorry, holiday trees. We don't have holiday trees. We have Christmas trees. So not to be a pain in the
So
butt.
just to clear, so I just wanted to clarify, that was a discussion when this project was being reviewed, that the reason that we chose holiday trees is because not everyone celebrates Christmas. So that was why the reference was to holiday trees.
I understand, but, holiday, I would prefer to go by the definition of a Christmas tree. Holiday tree by definition, we could say that would be an Easter tree, Halloween tree. Holidays encompass many, many federal holidays and state. The Christmas tree. Thank you.
No,
I
it's
think that-
understood.
But Olivia, I think one of the concerns is that I wrote, like many of our applicants have done, we write very specifically the crop on the application. And when you look at the application, it says Christmas trees. When you look at the pumpkins, they say pumpkins. But then what happens is the county then changes it unilaterally, and that's the problem we're coming up against. And I think that's what's concerning, because we just need to stick with what the crop is, if possible. I
So
think
I'll
it-
bring that back. I just wanted to explain why this was discussed with Summer and why she came down to that decision for the entire report. She made the decision and I understood it. And she also did review this report. Tiffany drafted it and she reviewed it. So I'll bring that back to them.
Well, no, you don't have to, because she sent me an email this morning and she said that she agreed with me on that point. She did in fact explain why you did it, and I appreciate you letting me know as well. But she said she agreed with me and that it was fine and that she would let you guys know. But I think overall, when applicants apply, it's important not to change the wording on their application on the things regarding crops and so forth. Thank you. Okay, so then, what'd you say? And then, I think there were, yeah, there were some other things, but they were minor. So that's it. So thank you.
I make the motion to pass it.
So Peter Markey moved to pass it and Cole
Second.
seconds it.
Natalie, you should step down because you have a financial interest in this.
Yeah, every year I recuse
Yeah.
myself, but I wasn't gonna do that till the vote. I
Oh,
need to do it prior to the vote.
well, technically, you're supposed to leave the room, but.
Okay.
No, I say, what, that's what they do, city council, planning commission.
Yeah, we
Oh.
don't,
Yeah.
we just exclude ourselves.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just want to be sure you recuse yourself, that's all.
okay, I recuse myself. But do I need to do that? I typically do it before the vote. Do I need to do it before the vote like I've done?
Yeah,
Or do
before the
it
vote.
Prior to the discussion?
Before the vote.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Made a motion, Cole seconded.
I'll take a roll call vote as the vice chair, perhaps.
Thanks. Thanks. I didn't want to say anything.
So, Cole,
Yes.
yes. Ryan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I, John, also find the motion in favor of yes.
Thank you. Discussion items, item number 10, Pescadero Fire Station mitigation measures, committee member Natalie Sayre, committee to review a draft recommendation letter written by the AAC addressed to the county, the attachment A. So I think this letter. And it, so have you guys, had a chance to read it? Did you have input, things you want me to change? Okay.
And just a reminder, there are hard copies of that draft letter.
Thank you, by the
On
way,
the-
for the.
on the
a lot
table.
of good hard copies out here.
Thank you, yeah.
Natalie, when these requirements, where do they come from?
Which
The,
ones?
the for meet the following, the property provided, second paragraph, last sentence, the property provided as mitigation was to meet the following criteria.
Let me, pull
So
up the
and there's
letter.
4 bullets.
Several months ago, that I read this.
Am I reading the right thing?
Okay, yeah, they were, it was the mitigation requirements for the, that was imposed by, I believe the coastal commission,
The Coastal Commission,
when they said they had to get a mitigation property.
is that from the LCP?
LCP, yeah. It's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes,
this went to LAFCO and has been appealed. So I think it's gonna be on the agenda again for final approval, LAFCO regarding the extension of the boundary of the service district. So I don't know if you want to postpone it to November. If you think that's part of your issue. Reading the letter, I don't think it is, but I'm just letting you know that.
Yeah, and is there a reason to believe that there will not be an effort made to find a mitigation property because the zoning terminology has changed? Or is it, I mean, because that's what's important to me. I don't care that they now call it institutional, because it will be once they build the fire station on it, it'll no longer be agricultural land at that point. But if we all are aware that it was agricultural land and therefore required
right.
a mitigation property to be found and made available for farming.
I think once they changed the zoning to institutional, I don't know if that required that they didn't have to come before our committee. But I know once it was changed, they didn't come before our committee anymore. You know, so,
But they're still required to fund.
yes, they're still required to get a mitigation property, yes. And our goal with the letter was to basically, this is the same letter that I handed out at the last meeting that you guys asked me to write up, so, it's been quite a while, so, basically, it was to ask that they keep us informed with the
Right.
gist of it, you know?
The final paragraph, we request that to be provided with mitigation properties being considered so we can review,
Yeah.
provide input.
And where does, Mike, do you know where they are with this? Are they, I know that they gave, I believe they gave the onus to another agency to find the mitigation property, but do you know if they found any or if they're in the? so if they're- if they're
I'm
still-
not in the loop.
Okay,
If you want, I'll check with, tomorrow and.
no, it's
and-
okay,
Yeah.
unless somebody else feels differently, but this is to ask them to let us know anyway. I
Yeah,
just didn't want this, I was wondering at this juncture if the letter was coming to a point that it was, null and void. It's just, it's already happened. It's been so many months.
no, I think your letter is just basically saying we want to be part of it, raising your hand, that's all.
And I think it says that in the last paragraph pretty clearly.
Yeah, I just making them have to read to the end, so that stinks. Right? Because it's so long. But I mean, please tell me though, if you guys are like, hey, you know what? Let's cut this, let's make it shorter, let's make it more concise. I mean, whatever you want to do, just
I
tell me.
was just kind of thinking about, this petition passed out to property owners. That's the basically saying. If they want to, park there, should be able to go. So we should add something like that in there. There should be other, surrounding.
That's a good point, but I would assume number one, everybody on the committee has to feel that way. Because we're doing this on behalf of the committee, and secondly, is that within our realm of, doing things, because is that considered an agricultural?
I think keeping it simple and trying to make it more of a simple ask. A little easier for them to say yes, keeping us informed.
Okay.
Probably have a better chance of success than making it a heavier letter. And including things that are slightly outside of ag stuff.
Well, I know there's people that are online that are basically. And therefore. If you're a late
Yeah, I guess I feel like maybe that should be like a second letter. If that's something. we
Okay,
want
sort of
to-
separate. Okay.
I agree, I think a second letter for that would be important, but I agree, I think maybe keeping it separate, just so that, since it's kind of
Yeah.
different topics.
I think that's a good point too, because
I
And
can
I-
go for it, because it'd be one big process, but it'd be on a different.
Yeah, I think so.
and I wonder if there's, if the people with that have those farms would be willing to meet with us, do you know what I mean?
I could check.
Because, yeah, because if kind of, hear their side of the story and then put something pen to paper if we agree.
But also it just, hasn't the ship kind of sailed?
Well, that's kind of what I
So this
was,
stuff,
I was
like, are
worried
we
the
gonna
ship
have
had
any
sailed.
influence whatsoever?
Right.
Asking
Well, that's why I asked
about
him
the
about if anything, but
water
he didn't.
stuff.
Oh, I see, about the water.
I mean,
stuff,
I
yeah.
think we barely, they really barely have to respond to this, you know.
In 2010, when explored with Don Horsley, if we could hook up to the municipal water to our farmer housing. And after he searched these out, it was the Rockville that it was the township alone. And so, example, that here, it's part of your house. Properties adjacent to the municipal ones. And they're extending our house. Where, there's other homes that buy the property. And so I would be interested.
I mean, I agree that they should have considered that, but I'm wondering at this point in time.
No, I get you, and another
I don't know that we have
letter.
any leverage.
Oh, yeah, it's just our,
And
it's just our suggestion,
Yeah,
and a separate letter is fine, I mean, just, so.
In my opinion, I think it should be a separate letter, just because this one, I'm worried about the ship selling on this one
no, it's.
too,
fine,
even,
that's fine.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that separate one. doesn't
But I
bother
think
me.
it should be addressed,
Mhm.
big time. you
Yeah,
know?
I moved to agenda as that topic in it for this next meeting, in developing the second letter. Because I think it would, I mean, I agree with Ryan in the sense that like. We probably have limited leverage in the entire thing, but that said, I think it's worth trying to bring the perspective of the ag
At
community.
least we put a.
I mean, that's why we're here in the first place, is trying to be some sort of representation of the ag community. So I think it makes sense to like do it.
How do you feel about, asking some of the people that have, farms that it could help their farms, if they'd be willing to come to our next meeting, and if they have anything to say about it, that could help us out with our letter,
We are open public meetings, so it's fine.
Right, yeah, ask them, yeah, you're right, okay. All right, I think that's a great idea. Well, you guys tell me what to do, because I'm writing this on behalf of all of us, and tell me if you want me to shorten it, take some stuff out, yeah,
It looks to me that I think the letter's well written. I think the goal of this is well written. And I think you did a good job writing this. I think that, and I think we probably do need to move faster in terms of just getting this submitted as well, just because. I mean, frankly, we don't really know the timeline is for any of this. It's been a little bit vague. And so getting it sooner than later is not gonna hurt. So I would move to approve the letter and then separately move to, if you have to get separately move to agenda as the topic of the pipelines.
That's fine.
so we have a motion to approve the letter,
Mhm.
and then we'll do a second motion on the pipeline, is that okay? Like that, and do we have a second for the letter?
Sure, I'll second.
Ryan seconds it, so all those in favor, yay, those opposed? Did you oppose?
No, I was slow to say yay.
I just want to make sure I got it right. That's all.
That was a yay at the wrong time.
Okay, Okay, so the letter's been,
Yay.
so Mike, what do I do? Then I just take the letter and I sign it and send it to your office?
Yeah, send it to Ray,
Okay.
you know,
Sign it and give it to her.
yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Just say, here it
Do you guys have letterhead? I don't know if you even have letterhead, do you?
Well, what for AAC committee?
Yeah.
I don't think so, do we?
Yeah. Draw a little head.
I had signed this previously,
Okay,
but
good.
it got taken out.
Yeah, if you want,
Like,
I'll
I'm
scan it
good.
tomorrow and send it to Ray and to LAFCO,
Just
Okay.
sign it.
Steve over there.
All
and-
right, thank you for that.
Yeah,
'Cause
no
that
problem.
helps. All right, and then the second motion to agendize discussing the hooking up to the water, line that's going to the fire district.
Right.
Per the petition that's going around right now in Pescadero, and inviting people that have agriculture interests regarding that water to join us at our next meeting. Does somebody want to move that?
I make a motion.
Okay, Peter Markey makes a motion to move that.
Mhm.
Do we have a second?
One second.
And Paul seconds it.
Mhm.
Okay, all those in favor, yay,
Yeah.
nay? Okay. Next. Done, okay, the last two items. Committee member chair Natalie Sayre drafting steps and paths for the county to help preserve and promote farm labor housing. And then committee member chair Natalie Sayre list of methods to help farmers stay in the area. Chair Sayre to send a draft list to planning staff. So we were gonna discuss that at this meeting. So did you guys want to discuss that
Well,
and give me ideas?
you want me to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Chair recognizes Peter Markey.
What I talked about in the past, that, we could get into aids for, farmers, sons and daughters, they came up with, affordable housing that don't consume density credit. And, it's subdividable. And, you should check into if it's, still subdividable because there's, I thought it's not. Very so. Not maybe, still could be, so you should check into, see if, but there was a certain amount of density credits, having, low moderate income, available. So I don't know if we consumed them all, or if there's still more out there that could be used. And to find out if they're still subdivided.
And when you say subdividable, you're talking about subdividing the land and being able to build
Yes,
a house on it with either farm labor housing or low income housing.
as affordable housing,
Okay,
low moderate, it's low moderate income, and now it's affordable housing. But, but anyway, so the person had like, 20 acres, basically subdivided, 2, 3 acres off, and it does not. That density credit, so. it falls under affordable housing that you do not pay, density credit. And why that was formed, other than farm labor housing, is a scenario, say, if a farmer had some children that they want to subdivide a parcel off for, and then, but they still maybe, it's like, if they worked out a job over the hill, but still had enough time on weekends or after hours to help on the farm, and they didn't have to worry about following up right here of, farm housing, working 20 hours a week and over half your income come from agriculture because of what's not farm housing.
okay. So, and then that's, okay, so I can look into that and see and bring it to the next meeting,
And then.
what I find out.
So, anyways, and then that also could help with like say a property owner would like to say, you know, I don't know, like subdivide 5 acres off. I'll sell it to maybe the home, their resident, ready to like own their own business, maybe not necessarily farm. It's like with that. Possible.
then, Jess Brown was going to look into, the differences between here and Santa Cruz. He had mentioned like the farm labor I'm sorry, the affordable housing, that it's typically for a 10-year rather than a perpetuity. So, I was gonna ask him about this meeting, but I can, I guess, call him in the interim. Does anybody else want to look into the subdivided land and the housing unit? 'Cause I don't mind doing it, but if somebody else wants to do it,
I got one other question.
yes.
Just, and then, that was developed by Don Horsley years ago. How farmers, putting up housing and, for affordable or fixing current house. And, was that a 10-year or was it perpetuity?
Became a
Start at
20-year.
10, I know mine's 15, there's. gonna be
Will
20.
be 20.
Now, the change, is it changed because there was some change, or is it just that there was more money was given, so it went for longer? How did that work?
Yeah, they awarded more money in the later draft. And I think maybe because of that, they wanted to
I think it was the money. I think
be
the-
sure that it was gonna really stay farm labor housing for a long period of
Okay,
time.
but it's not
And this is
perpetuity.
for the loans.
For the forgivable,
Forgivable
Yeah.
loans. Yeah, we should, yeah.
programs, you know, that would be one thing to steps and paths for the county to help preserve and promote farm labor housing. Maybe bring back that.
The forgive. Now, Mike, you were gonna do something, actually, you were talking to Supervisor Mueller about the forgivable loans. And, we received a letter a few months back that you guys were looking into it. Did you find anything about that?
There's still looking at it to try to update it, the regulations and, you know, get the money, because they're not expecting the, the state's got a budget deficit, so kind of rolls downhill, you know? So I don't know what the status is at this point.
Okay.
I
So
can
what-
check into it. I would make one suggestion though, if I'm, you keep using the term affordable. And if you get, there's federal guidelines as to what is affordable housing and who's entitled to live in it and stuff like that. And being you're talking about just doing it for your family, I would go with some name like Legacy Homes or something, which kind of adds a pizzazz to it.
Well, what do you mean, calling it that?
Yeah, because
Good.
it's not a, there's not a portable, there's a certain amount that you make over it, you can't do it. The legacy home means there's no,
Okay, so I'm familiar with that grid. So when you look at the grid and if you have a family of X amount of people, you're only allowed to make this and that. And especially for the rent as well, if you're renting it out to somebody. So you're saying with a legacy home? that
No, I'm
doesn't
just
apply?
throwing out that for discussion, because if you say affordable, if that gets thrown on the grid. And somebody's working for a tech company over the hill, they could be very well making more than they're allowed to live in affordable homes. But if you do your subdivision or eliminate your density credit for your family members, just come up with a different name.
I understand. You had mentioned this
Yeah.
previously and you talked about that. I remember, and that was an excellent point because we talked about, because wasn't it you or somebody was saying, or, no, I think it was Daniel was saying that if you have someone who, you have a kid that, they want to be part of the farm, but they also can make $1 gazillion in the
Exactly.
tech industry and they have to make that,
yeah, so that way there.
That choice.
And that word legacy.
okay. Mike, thank you.
I'm just throwing that word out. You can call
No, but
whatever you
no,
want.
I understand what you're saying. I.
But-
Yeah, that's a good
because
point.
If you get if they fund, that forgivable loan again, if they bring in federal money, then you're gonna be tied in with affordable.
Yeah, and that's certainly a requirement of this program now. You can't, if you were paying, like, say you had a manager and you were paying them too much, they might not actually qualify to live in the housing that.
And has that been an issue? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that.
Substantial issue. And I think it's been improved a little bit, from when I did it. Which I'm still limited to $4 per day of work,
Okay,
For what you can charge for rent.
what I can charge for rent.
Yeah,
you know,
they,
and then it shouldn't take into any consideration. Minimum wage going up and. You know, that's-
Okay.
Is there, if somebody makes too much money though, are they prohibited from living in one of the units or?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's a farmer house. It's
Yeah.
not.
It's separate.
Yeah, but they don't have it like like a ceiling or like that.
Well, no, with some of the housing, you're limited as to how much you could charge them for rent then.
Yes, he just brought that part up.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about working income, different.
Okay,
So, yeah, you could pay a guy $100.
Does yours have income?
Sure.
But
Or
I
is it
believe
just
you
more
have
of
to.
the rent?
I think that there is,
On the farm labor
like
housing,
if you,
there's no limit. I'm sorry, go ahead, John. I didn't-
I believe that if you were to make above a certain level, you would not qualify it. Even if you were getting all of your income from agriculture. Because like, yeah, they're giving us the housing, the money, or not making us pay back the loan. In part, it's to provide farm labor housing, but it's also to provide affordable housing. And I think if you are making above whatever it was, what's considered a moderate income, like we have to charge a rent that is only as much as you can for like a very low income. But the person occupying the space can't make above what's considered the low income. Which is actually kind of a lot.
I haven't heard that before, forgivable, for farmland housing. I have not heard that.
But
Now, low moderate income is different, but as far as farm, like housing.
But I also kind of wonder. What, like tenant laws play a part in somebody, if they
Yeah.
see that. If you're
Your
the
partner gets a new
landowner
job.
or something, yeah, you can't actually evict somebody, it's like very hard to evict somebody.
Right.
Um,
So maybe at the time of initially moving someone in, you were like.
I
you're
think it's
supposed to
after
check.
somebody's been there for a year, their tenant rights are considerably greater. So if employment stops for some reason, or some other family members making a lot of money, I don't know how that like plays into it, but I know that there are tenant laws that play a part.
What about the percentage for a person to be considered a farm laborer? The percentage that they have to work as a farmer, is it 50% now? That their income has to come 50% from the farm, or is that right? Because I remember that was one thing at the last meeting we discussed.
20 hours average.
50% plus 20 hours average a week.
Yeah, but if it's a family, it's the main person of the household. And meaning that the spouse could go work elsewhere and does not necessarily have to be in agriculture.
Okay, so I just remember that the committee felt that and I think it's in my notes,
Oh, yeah.
decreasing the percentage that you needed to, or the amount of
No,
hours
we
for
were-
someone.
We were exploring with, if you were to put farm labor housing for a family member,
Okay,
they would not have to necessarily have to meet that criteria, because if, like, Daniel said, if they get a job elsewhere and they're working big money in someplace else, and then to meet that criteria, if you have to make over 50% in agriculture, they won't be able to stay there. And whereas if you don't have to meet that criteria, if you're a family member, a person can go work in the high tech, but still live in farm labor housing to be able to help on the family. So we put it as you're gonna get, like I said, at the last meeting with, and I looked at Jesse, you can get, if you said change it completely for all farm workers, you gotta get pushed from farm bureau on that, because they like it the way it is.
Okay,
I just
okay.
want to disclose that, I'm talking about family members.
And we also need to be conscious of what, I mean, we can't just be asking for the moon. We need to
Be realistic.
be realistic. This is, we're looking at ways that it can help farmers, but at the same time, you know, being
Right.
granted $1 billion would help too, but it doesn't mean we're, you know, so. Oh,
I-
Mike, go ahead.
I
sorry.
think you might want to, you know, not trying to be politically correct or anything, but some sort of mission statement is our goal for these guidelines is to preserve family farms in San Mateo County. Allow existing farmers to pass the farm on to the next generation. And, you know, have clear goals, because you're talking about farm worker, you're talking about this, and that's a whole different bailiwick than when you started talking about passing the farm on to the next generation.
Different subject, yes, I agree. And that's instead of being the, farm, worker, back to what Mike was saying earlier, a legacy to subdivide because of family member. Okay. I
Okay.
added some additional-
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes,
Instead of farm labor housing, could it be farm family housing?
that's a good point. And you're a member of the public. What's your name?
James Inglesby.
Jane Inglesby, Olivia, just in case she needs it for the,
Did you get that, Olivia?
for the records.
Yeah.
What did you say? Farm family
Farm
housing?
housing.
That's a good category.
That's very good. Yeah. I like that.
But I think you should almost come up with some sort of statement of purpose, mission
Okay.
statement. This is what I want to do, then make all your suggestions fit that criteria.
Okay,
Well, in the statement of vision, you said it pretty well, Mike, basically, of trying to keep, family farms, stay in the family and productive, yeah, so.
okay. I think
Yeah,
that's great.
well, I think it should be broader than that. For example, I don't have a family, but I'd like to see. Like, if I wanna pass the farm on to sell the business to somebody and keep it going, or.
Well, what if we incorporate both? Because like on the agenda, it's drafting steps and paths for the county to help preserve and promote farm labor housing, and then list of methods to help farmers stay in the area. So that kind of engulfed into the family and passing it along, but farmers themselves. is
Maybe
important.
put something
Being
like,
able to Continue farming in the area.
put something like, the goal of these suggestions is to preserve and protect farming in San Mateo County for future farmers as well as family members.
Future generations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Or to,
Something-
Families are
Something
not
like that.
families.
and to preserve the farm, you know, so
Yeah.
that we can, you know, because we have the chair recognizes Cole. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I like your idea a lot of framing it within a goal, and I think, going through different facets of framing it in the sense of these are the different things that would accomplish this makes sense a lot. Peter, the idea that you mentioned earlier, I think you mentioned in the last meeting as well, of also how it used to be where you could subdivide
Yes.
I believe it's 5 acre minimum parcel.
How it currently is now, is if you have a farm, say, it, that's big enough for 2 density credits, you can subdivide up to 5 acres.
Okay.
Now, if you have a farm, say, that has only 1 density credit, but if you want to subdivide it off a piece that for, affordable housing, the way it is now, or low moderate income, you could divide a piece off no greater than 5 acres, not needing a second density credit.
Yeah, okay.
And when I mentioned the last meeting that I was talking about, changing the wording for, not to get off subject, is we're changing the wording of farm labor is proposed because there's some parcels with restrictions that has, only, you can only have farm labor on it. And if I was saying, if it's the owner of the farm, have a different criteria than 20 hours and 50%, and I can help you on that later, because they might, be working part-time someplace else and making more money. And while I can't stay in my own farm labor housing, that makes too much, and if it's under basically a farm owner that lives on a parcel that is deemed for farm labor housing only, be, that they make 50% of their income for that 20%, 20 hours. So that would be not for all farm workers, but farm call so business. So that way they can decide in that part of the house.
My thought, I mean, my general thought on this topic broadly is that the thing that we're with is that we effectively have all of us who are within agriculture competing against people who are buying vacation homes largely, or as from over the hill who are raising the prices of everything. And I think if there is a mechanism where we can allow any property owner to basically subdivide and sell a parcel, like kind of how you mentioned that was, historically in the past. That would go a long way in terms of one is both people who are farming, whether it's their own business or whether it's a farm worker, let's say a family would be able to have a path to actually buy a property realistically. So long as that subdivided parcel had to be sold to somebody within ag, or family, would be kind of creating a pathway for them to continue to farm business in perpetuity. So I think bringing back that version of ability to subdivide properties in a way where you could sell it to somebody within ag specifically would be valuable. It would in turn make it bad where people can have afford homes, whether it's farm owners or farm workers. And then on top of that as well, it would just, by having more housing stock that's dedicated specifically to people within agriculture in perpetuity, it would kind of address the larger housing crisis we have, because we'd be building homes, but it wouldn't be building vacation homes in our community, we'd be building farm.
So you're saying like almost like, it's almost like a compromise, like you're saying, okay, well, like, yes, we could subdivide, but we would give you in return is, but we can only sell it for agriculture.
Yeah.
The whole problem I see on that is I don't think you have an incentive for a property owner to do so because ag is so limited. That's why, and then if you do subdivide it for somebody that's in ag, that 10 years later that retires and gets out of ag because it's for the person in ag might have to leave their property because they're no longer in ag, or that's for it's better for same legacy or somebody if it's affordable housing, because and then if you're in ag, great, and if you go out of ag, you could still preside there and be there and keep it. And I'm worried about the limited for ag.
It's a good point.
And you're gonna narrow the market where if it's affordable housing, it's gonna open it up that more property owners will be willing to do that versus the very small amount.
Yeah, maybe one clarification with that would be that the person who purchases that parcel needs to be in ag at the time at least of the purchase. If, let's say, down the road they retire and they want to continue living at home, that's fine, but if it's sold again in the future, it needs to continue to be sold to somebody with an ag.
I get your point, we should try to create it for people in ag, but I think you're gonna be streamlining and narrowing the market, where if it's more broader, it broadens the market, and then not in that, it helps ag, and it also helps people that serve ag, carpenters, plumbers, and whatnot, because affordable housing.
Yeah.
So.
Are you then saying, do you want actual deed restrictions filed against the property?
See, there you go. That's what
Yeah,
I'm worried about.
no, I mean, I think the thing, I get the concerns.
Competing interests.
There's competing interest, and I get the concern because I think. From my perspective, I think that we definitely need more affordable housing at large in our community. We especially need it, particularly on the south coast for agriculture, particularly. Of course, there's need for agriculture, but I think for the purview of kind of what we're focusing on here, it's agriculture focused. And I don't necessarily like the idea of just being able to subdivide a property to carve out 5 acres to sell kind of at the market at large. Because my concern with that is just seeing who often ends up buying a lot of the properties in this area. It's largely purchase vacation homes. I think if you go to any open house, that kind of backs that up. And so my concern would be that this would just kind of be building new homes that would not really be largely addressing the need that we have in our community. And also those properties would be sold on the open market at vacational prices. And I think if there is an ability to say, like, you're giving a special privilege to carve out a section of the property, but the intention of this is specifically to be remaining within ag. And maybe that means that the property has to, I know Williamsburg wouldn't necessarily apply if it's 5 acre property because it's very small, but you know, maybe the idea of it is it sold specifically for ag? I think that would be interesting concept because it would kind of create a separate market specifically for people within ag in our community, where they would not be competing against folks who are really not related to ag, or not even living in the area.
But wouldn't that hurt the property value?
Yeah,
I
hold
mean,
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me.
yeah.
I think the better way to do it,
Mhm.
just shooting off the top here.
Yeah.
Is 2 categories. One, if it's for family members, like Mike said, legacy, and category 2, affordable housing.
Mhm.
And when I say affordable housing, it does help on the farm,
Yeah.
because what you're talking about is if it was not affordable housing and strictly, first, carving out 5 acres, just to carve out 5 acres. Says you would, yes, it could be the high-end people, but with affordable housing, it would not be.
Mhm.
And I'm talking about, we're not needing a density credit.
Yeah.
Now, if a person had 150 acres and had 2 density credits, it needs to stay the same, that if you carve 5 acres out and they could sell it to anybody at large,
Yeah.
because it's their right within their density credits,
Yeah.
you don't want to restrict them on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I'm not suggesting we
you're
do
right,
that.
but I want to make that clear.
Mhm.
But now, to be able to help on agriculture and not to make it streamlined to strictly agriculture, but still would help, is the affordable housing that they had in the past that they did really well.
Mhm.
And then the ones that want to do it, like Mike said, just for their own children,
Mhm.
that could fall in another category as legacy. So that way there's just not a,
I agree. I think the legacy makes total sense. One question regarding affordable housing, and I don't know enough about this issue. But in terms of if it were to be sold as affordable housing, what is how is that priced essentially in terms of?
well, there's a power market now, there's a market with it, there's a format that the county has right now. If you want to bring it to next meeting to show, and so.
There-
It's like a formula that's, created by HUD and then interpreted by California. Right, and even more specifically for our county, so we have a very high income county.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I did look up the terms of our loan and it does, it could be that just initially when you move in, but the housing, it says in the loan that it's for people that qualify in our county as very low income.
Okay.
Which for a family of 4 is making less than $98,000 a year, so to us, that doesn't seem like super low
Yeah.
income necessarily, but I mean, that is, and so we kind of looked at it, we're like, oh, our manager, if his wife is working, she got a good job, you know, it gets close, but I think even for us, like for our highest paid people, we would be able to get them into that housing initially, and then there's limitations on what we can charge for rent. But it's like it's a formula that will go up every year.
Yeah, no,
based on
I understand
the
that
living.
based on rent though, but I'm referring to like if the property is sold, like if somebody
Well,
wanted
if
to
it's
buy.
sold, you get
Yeah.
into, it's, right now, it's 2.5 times
Mhm.
the income of a low to moderate, and, well, it depends, if it's zoned for low on a moderate income,
Mhm.
or if it's zoned for very low, like John talked about, or just low income, but right now, low to moderate income is 2.5 times you could sell it for only 2.5 times the income of a low to moderate income person in San Mateo County.
Okay.
So what you're looking at, because our home prices are so high,
Mhm.
you're looking at homes that are appraised at like 1.5, 1.7, but can only be sold for like 480,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
it
Yeah.
really changes
It
the
does.
selling.
Mhm.
Right, so
Yeah,
that's
part of
why a lot of people that have the low moderate income, they normally end up keeping them.
They don't sell them,
Right,
but
because it's still, they're not getting much.
It's not worth
it.
Right, it's
well, and
more,
yeah, you never
more
really.
hanging on and renting them out
Right.
versus.
Because you can
selling.
get, because a rent, like for, for a 2-bedroom,
you could get like 4,000.
Yeah. And so this is based
Pretty
on the
much
county's guidelines.
Decent, in my opinion.
So,
Yeah.
and this was set up in the eighties when they did the low moderate income, and so. And, but anyways, I think our discussion is good, and I know we've got 10 more minutes, but I still would say we should agendize it and keep it going for, brainstorming for next,
Yeah, and I think it's fine for us to have a couple of different, I mean, maybe there even be like, we can split it between B and C and have, you know, things to help farmers stay in the area. Could be the idea of splitting off a legacy property, whereas things specifically related to farm labor housing could be a separate letter. or
we can have all different categories.
With, you know, keeping in mind Mike's suggestion of having it be like, we sort of like, here are our goals, and then this is why these different suggestions help us meet these
Exactly.
goals.
Right.
Exactly, and see, and like I said, because I was referencing in the past, of low moderate income that work. But Daniel Theobald, keep pointing there because he used to sit there. But he was talking about, and he brought up a very good point, is one of his kids might get a job paying a lot, and he doesn't want them to live in affordable housing or farm labor housing. And that's where Mike's suggestion came in good, of a legacy home, so that way, but we'll still be on the weekends and after hours to help on the farm of the family members. So there could be several different categories that works, and we don't have to be stuck to just one goal.
I was just gonna say, one of the tools that a lot of cities use is inclusionary zoning. So that, let's say they're building 10, let's say they're building 50 units, 15% of that 50 has to be held off to, and there's an actual deed restriction that they will be affordable housing. So that's another avenue for you to use, is inclusionary zoning.
Actually, the other thing too is I think when they did a low mark income housing back in the eighties, was set aside for RN was like 40 units. And when it comes to mine, I don't think we consumed them all, so I think there's still some out there, and I'm not positive on that. So that's a question for here.
And you could actually use not just by units, but let's say, a 4,000 square foot unit for your child, and 2,000 mandated has to be for farm labor. You can do it by square footage also.
You can do 200 square foot for your dog and.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's gotta be a working dog.
Mother-in-law, yeah.
But you can't make X amount of money.
20 hours a week.
Yeah.
20 hours a week average with no pay.
So, do you guys want to move to agendize this for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so who wants to make the motion?
I will make a motion to agendize this discussion for the next meeting.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so all those in favor, yay,
Yay.
and all those opposed? No nays, I was just saying. All right.
Just checking, who did the second?
Cool, I did.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay, Berman. Okay, is there anything else before we adjourn the meeting? Okay, so, I adjourn the meeting.
Thank you very much.
All right, Olivia, talk to you later.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.